So we're continuing today, Meretz Hashem. We're actually picking up still in the middle of the 11th Mishna. And the Mishna, again, was quoting the statements of Rabbi Lazar Hamodi'i. And Rabbi Lazar said, Malbim Pnei Chaveiro, a person who embarrasses his fellow, even if he has Torah and Maisim Tovim, good deeds, he doesn't have a Chelek in Olam Haba. So the Rabbeinu Yonah explains, and it's very profound, Rabbeinu Yonah says that we know that there are three Averos for which a person has to sooner give their life than commit. And those are the Averos of Avodah Zarah, idolatry, Shvichos Damim, murder, and Gilei Arayos, immorality. So for everything else in the Torah, if there's a choice between committing the Avera or giving up your life, you commit the Avera, because human life is most important. But for these three cardinal sins, one has to sooner give up their life than to chas v'shalom transgress. And the Rabbeinu Yonah says something amazing. He explains that embarrassing someone is a tolda, is an offshoot of murder. That just like when you murder someone, you take their life, so embarrassment can be so humiliating, it can be so overwhelming for a person that either, again, chas v'shalom, they wish they were dead, or just the pain and the difficulty of it is tantamount to a death-like experience. So a very profound idea and very auspicious for us to learn this on the eve of Tisha B'Av, when we are so focused on somehow bettering and really just enhancing our interpersonal relationships. As sometimes we make a joke and we think it's funny, and maybe even it is funny, but a person has to ask themselves, is it worth the risk of chas v'shalom embarrassing another individual, especially when I know that embarrassing someone is tantamount to chas v'shalom taking a life. Next, Mefer Bris Hashem Avinu is one who tries to hide his bris milah. Megale Panim Batorah is someone who sins in public. This is someone, again, so we all commit averos, but part of committing an averos is doing it privately, because at least if I do it privately, I try to hide it. That shows that I recognize that what I'm doing is wrong, but for whatever the reason, I'm just not able to battle this temptation right now, as opposed to sinning publicly, which unfortunately, again, the level of brazenness in that highlights this idea that a person doesn't even feel that it's wrong. So in all of these things are so detrimental that even if a person has Torah, even if a person has good deeds, at the end of the day, he loses his portion in the world to come. Incredible. Or as we spoke about also, Motzina Sa'adam Mina Olam, or diminishes his portion in the world to come. One more Mishnah for today. Mishnah Yud Beis, Rabbi Yishmael Yishmael says, literally, be yielding to a superior and compliant to individuals, and ultimately greet every person with happiness. So here the Rabbeinu Yonah explains very beautifully. He says, this is about humility. That's really what the Mishnah is all about. Learn how to be a humble individual. So how does humility manifest itself? So number one, so be yielding to people who are your superiors, right? And furthermore, when there are officials and officials are asking you to do something, obviously they're not talking about doing something, that's neged, that's contrary to halacha. But again, there's an authority structure in this world. And too often, we don't know how to become compliant with authority. And whether we realize it or not, often that stems from arrogance. And therefore, again, Rabbi Shmuel says, be a humble person. Because when you're a humble person, first of all, you'll be yielding, you'll be compliant, and that'll make your life so much easier when you're able to respect constructs of authority. Lastly, he says, greet people with a happy expression. That's also that's also part of humility. Also part of humility, recognizing that even if I'm in a bad mood, right, I don't have the right to go ahead and bring my negativity into the Rishus Harabim, into the public sphere. If I'm struggling with something, okay, I got to work on that. I have to figure that out. But at the end of the day, that's between me and me, or me and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But vis-a-vis the other, I don't have the right to go ahead and diminish from someone else's simchas hachaim, someone else's joy, by bringing my negativity into their life. So therefore, greeting every person happily is also a din in humility. And it's also such a profound idea. Just like, there are some of us who wear everything on our sleeves. And there are benefits to that, to being an expressive, emotional, and emotive person. But what we sometimes don't realize is the negative effects it has in our relationships. Because people don't like to be around other individuals who are constantly morose or constantly in a bad place or in a difficult situation. It's hard. And it stymies the ability to create interpersonal relationships. So part of humility is recognizing, okay, I got to deal with my stuff, but I don't necessarily have the right or the license to always bring my stuff into everyone else's life. When it comes in your Rishus HaYachid, in your private domain, absolutely. Deal with all of your stuff. Wear your emotions on your sleeve. Whatever you want to do. When it comes to the public domain, there's some interpersonal relationships. There, it is so important to put on a good face and to greet every person with a smile. Okay, we'll stop over here for today. Shkayach, everyone.